used to work in the film industry. I was a assistant editor on 2 movies, and I was what's known as a dailies tech in New York City for 18 months. A dailies tech is basically somebody who does minor color correction and make sure that the sync is right, the motion of the mouth matches the audio. And you know, it's very tedious work. It drives you nuts. We also process things out so that people could see what they were doing. We were literally processing the dailies, or what are known as the rushes. And it's a great job. It was also soul-crushing and consumptive of one's health and well-being, hence the 18 months. By the way, average survival rate, by the way. So I used to work, I had 2 coworkers that I really, well, 3 coworkers that I really liked. One of them, she was amazing, and she was by the numbers. This, that, and the other thing, you know, boom, 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 boom. And she rarely made a mistake, unlike me, and was just really good at what she did. And, you know, she took on hard jobs. I mean, she worked with Spike Lee, which is not easy. Film work is tough. You know, this is not a comment on Spike Lee, this is a comment on film work. Film work is tough, and he is good at film, so working with him is tough. And the other person, he also worked with Spike Lee. And he was really competent. He was really good. I mean, he was very good at what he did. And I checked the IMDb pages of the people that I worked with. Her page, you know, nice long list, very straightforward, just like her personality. This and this and this and this. And I got to his page. That seems excessive. And his page was really full, and there was a lot of this title and this title and this title. Now, he was a dailies tech like the rest of us. He was also really good, so he got pulled for you know, advanced duty, and he was really competent and stuff like that. But, you know, I think he gilded the lily a little bit. Certainly volume-wise. It's like if he helped with a project for a day, it would go on his page, which, you know, is entirely within his right and all that stuff. But it doesn't accurately depict him. While her page, by God, accurately depicted her. I bet you're all wondering what this has to do with swordsmanship. Well, this is Terza TV. This is episode 0. And today we're going to be talking about teachers, tradition, and honesty. Now, we all have an instructor of one kind or another. We all learn from someone. And we trust that they know what they're doing and what they're talking about. But how do you really know? It's like that joke in this gaming comic I saw where the bunch of gamers are sitting around and the GM goes, "I've finally done it. I've finally gotten Lord of the Rings into a role-play game, into a scenario." And he's handing out characters. And he goes, you will be Aragorn. And he passes out Aragorn. And you will be Gimli. And you will be Gandalf. And the guy goes, "Oh, I can't wait to see what awesome powers Gandalf has." And he gets to the page of spells. Wait, all it says is talk to birds and light pine cones on fire. Well, yeah. But where's all the powerful magic? What made you think he had powerful magic? Well, he beat the Balrog. Well, how do you know the Balrog is powerful? Well, oh man. And that's kind of the conundrum that every martial artist is in. How do you know your teacher is what they say, or even worse, think they are? I say even worse because there are a lot of well-meaning people that are not what they think they are, because they took on faith what their teacher told them, and their teacher took and so on and so forth. But the further back you go, the harder it is. Take, for example, ninjutsu. I mean, we all remember ninjutsu in the 80s. Everybody wanted to be a ninja in the 80s. Oh, by the way, for you people that are younger, there was this time called the 80s. And the 80s had a ninja boom. And it was the art, much like BBJ is now, which kind of funny if you think about it. So Kukure-ryu ninjutsu applied to be recognized as a Kodoru art, art that could document itself before the Meiji Restoration. And their application was denied because their documentation didn't hold up. And it kind of called into question, is ninjutsu a legitimate art? Now, there are people still practicing it today. Taijutsu and Inton and all of that stuff that goes with it. There is a soke, head of the school, Hatsume, and his teacher was Takamatsu Sensei, who is a contemporary of Urashiba, the founder of Aikido. And there's anecdotal evidence that says that Takamatsu made it all up. And apparently there was a conversation between Urashiba and one of his students that said, yeah, Takamatsu, gifted guy, but he made up ninjutsu whole cloth. And, having read and researched ninjutsu, there were a lot of people that, after all this stuff comes to light, there were a lot of people that had a crisis of faith. And there were a bunch of people who said, hell with it. Let's go forward. Now, I'm not here saying that ninjutsu is not a legitimate art, because I'm not qualified to speak to that. And it's also kind of the subject of this video. How do you know your teacher is who they say they are? I mean, you could look to licensing and a Mikko Kaiden, but this is the internet age where pretty much anybody can get any sort of credential they want, from a PhD to becoming a priest of the Church of Flying Spaghetti Monster. I mean, these things exist, So, what do you do? I can tell you what I did, because I studied Estreza. And a friend of mine and I were talking about it today, and they said, you're not going to like what I have to say, but, nobody in the Destreza community is doing the things that you were taught. And my reply was, I know. And I don't know if my friend understood that I had already asked all these questions that he was kind of proposing to me. And I asked them a long time ago. In fact, I asked my teacher, where does this come from? And every time I did that, sometimes he would have an answer, and sometimes he would be a little offended, which I can understand, because it's like going into somebody's living room. You know what? Those drapes suck, and your tie is crooked. I bet that's a clip-on. So let me tell you about what I did. I asked my questions. I confided in the senior student who was doing a lot of my instruction. And I practiced. And I still do, by the way. Because here's the thing that I noticed. When I did what I was told, what I was instructed and drilled on, I got better. I didn't just get a little better. I got a lot better. And in the drills that I was taught, in the style of Destreza that I study, there are 12 canonical drills. Inside those drills are everything that you need. How to get off the center line, how to have an attack and a defense, how to move your body, how to move your feet, how to manipulate them, how to use the circle that you've got in your head moving around, and that it's actually a computer. Oh, it's all there. And the historian, the amateur historian in me had a mind to go, okay, well, let's look at it again. And so I read whatever English translation of a Destreza text I can get my hands on, and I found elements of what my teacher taught in the Book of the Black Sword, and I found elements of it in an interpretation of Radha that I read and picked up a copy of. In fact, drill 3 from the style I study is in Radha, like verbatim. It's right there. But then I also asked myself another question. Well, why doesn't it look like everybody else's Destreza? Because it doesn't. And then I realized something. So Destreza was a living art until the late 19th century. They're fighting with rapiers in Spain into the 19th century. That's actually not that long ago. The sources that people are now discovering and looking at are not that young. They're looking at Pacio and Carranza and Everard and Radha and numerous other books, because one of the nice things about Destreza is that it documented itself rather well. It gave us lists of books and masters because, it was pretty much controlled. And so people are digging for these sources, and they're translating the sources, and they're working with them. There's individuals such as Puck Curtis and his wife, Mary Curtis, who are doing amazing work. There's, Maestro Martinez, who kind of kicked it all off in a sense. They're all doing work, but they're working with the older stuff. Now, I'm not saying that just because, I'm not defending my teacher because he doesn't need my defense. To him, it's his art and he's doing it. And if you got a problem with it, you can go somewhere else. That's kind of comforting. What I am saying is there's a lot out there that we don't know, and a lot of possibilities. And like I said, drill 3 shows up in the Radha book. And there's the other thing that my teacher back when I started was like 1999 or 2000. Nobody was talking about this stuff the way they are now. And, a lot of the terminology was not in common use. And the first place I heard of atajo or tacto or de destro or any of that was from my teacher, long before I heard anybody else talk about it. Now, just to let you know, to my teacher, atajo was engagement. You didn't have to touch the blade. You didn't have to be right on top of it. But you had to be blocking off what they could do, and you had to have some sort of dominance, which meant, the strong part of your sword over the weak part of theirs. And you had to have the right angle, which sounds familiar a bit. So where does that leave us? Do I have a definitive answer of whether or not my teacher was telling me the truth? No. But I have his competency. I have the fact that his teachings really, really helped. I have that it was consistent. Drill 3 is the same as it was 20 years ago when I started. And I have faith in the character of the people that I work with. Are they always right? No. Is everything always happy and cool? No. But they're good people. And so now we're into the part of this video where I'm done talking about me and we're going to talk about you. What do you do? How do you know? Well, look at what your teacher does. Is it consistent? are there strings attached to it? I need you to do the laundry kind of thing, and that's an exaggeration, but are you falling into a cult of personality? Is there no wiggle room at all, in the sense that, if you say, hey, I went to this seminar and they were talking about this and they did it this way, is that dismissed as, denigrated, or is it talked out and worked out? Musashi said once that one should be so strong in one's own way that they can encounter another and be unaffected. And on the surface, I know that sounds like pig-headedness, but the reality is what they're talking about, what he was talking about, was don't change your mind midstream. Be secure in who you are and what you do. So that's the really important thing and the really important takeaway. Now, to this day, I will say that I've had some great, great teachers. And some of them are fantastic tales and fantastic people. And the logical part of the brain says, well, great claims require great proof. Yeah, you're right. But work is work. You can trust that. So you got to make up your own mind. But I would advise you, especially when dealing with historical documents or historical technique, to understand one very important thing. There is a finite amount of information currently available. Haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what is hiding in a library somewhere. Every year you hear about somebody finding something that changes things. So the real question is, how do you go with that flow? Look to your teacher. Your teacher will, if your teacher is worth the time you give them, they will be going with that flow. So, here we are. That was Terza episode 0. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. For anybody that I have studied with that feels that I have misspoken, I apologize. My intention was not to denigrate anything. In fact, all I wanted to do was address and explain. I would encourage people to hit that subscribe button, because we've got some exciting things coming. Like today I was just talking to someone who is rather prominent in swordsmanship, but doing an interview, which I'm rather excited about. We're going to see if that's going to work. And there are going to be more projects and talks like this. Anyway, have a good night, and I'll catch you on the field.